What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Once again, we're going to do another double eye swipe, and this time we're looking at a phone that I've actually never reviewed ever. Some would classify this as like a Samsung Galaxy Note 4, but this is a completely different phone in my opinion, and this is what really took Samsung from they pushed the boundaries a couple times here and there, but they really tried doing something interesting and new during the Galaxy Note Edge, and I feel like this phone is really relevant in today's age because as we saw the Samsung Galaxy Fold, and I've done like 2 videos on that, and obviously that thing's blowing up, but I feel like the Note Edge and the Note Fold, the Galaxy Fold, they have a lot in common because they both kind of push the boundaries in different ways. The Galaxy Fold more so in my opinion, but I feel like without the Galaxy Note Edge, our Samsung phones that we have now, especially like a couple variations after this one, really wouldn't be the same. Even the Galaxy Fold in my opinion would not be the same as if the Galaxy Note Edge wasn't released. Now I'll kind of explain that further down the line, but kind of looking around the Galaxy Note Edge, the thing that really separated this phone from the Galaxy Note 4 and really any other phone in the market was that Edge display. This was pretty much a Galaxy Note 4 with the S Pen support and all that good stuff, but that Edge display, in my opinion, was such a crazy, interesting thing. And at the time, I was like, man, that's such a weird thing. Why would you want a phone that has like the Edge panel? And like, I think it's cool in theory, but ultimately it's just going to be such a headache. Plus, how would you hold it? Like, you would be accidentally tapping the screen and all that. And when this thing was released, I would occasionally like go to Best Buy or something and I would see this phone and I would still play with it. I'm like, dude, this is such a weird phone. Why would you want it? And now if you look at, most of the Samsung phones that were released after this, even including the Galaxy S10, they all have some sort of like Edge display on it. It's very slight. It's not like as big as this thing was, but it's still pretty prevalent there. And you can see the kind of impact that this phone had on those ones, and the screen on the front was 5.6 inches. It's a Super AMOLED display. The resolution was a little different. It was 1600 by 2560, and it's kind of interesting in my opinion. Now, this phone didn't feel the best in the hand in my opinion. It still did have the removable back as well as the removable battery, expandable storage. You can put a micro SD card slot and all that stuff. So it really wasn't like taking away any features. If anything, you were just gaining that Edge panel, and it was pretty much up to you, to depend whether you like that specific feature or not. And in 2019, I will definitely say, because all the other phones have kind of had the Edge panels, at least the Galaxy S series from about the Galaxy S6 Edge onwards, I will say it kind of held up, but the Edge panel on this was pretty thick. We do have a micro USB port on the bottom as well as a headphone jack, and ultimately I'll definitely say that the Edge panel really kind of gave it that ask to kind of separate it from its competitors. And like I said, the Edge panel was brought over to the Galaxy S6 Edge, to the Edge Plus, the 7 Edge, and so on and so forth until all the phones eventually had Edge panels on them. So that kind of covers up the hardware and more so the Edge part of it. Let's go ahead and talk about the software. So this thing did start off with Android 4.4.4 KitKat, and in my opinion, I personally do think that Android KitKat was probably the best version of Android, at least the one that kind of brought the most features. But then again, Android Lollipop really refreshed everything. So I'm kind of in that boat. I don't know which one was better, but you are able to upgrade it to Android Marshmallow. Now, in some variants, you are able to do that. I'm unsure if I was able to do it on mine because I filmed this video forever ago, but from what I read online, some people were having trouble installing the Android Marshmallow update. Some people weren't getting it, and these people said the same thing about the Galaxy Note 4 as well, that phone was having issues updating to Android Marshmallow. But as far as I know, there is a route out for it. You can also custom ROM it. That's what I would always recommend. So if you're in the market, and if you're getting a Galaxy Note Edge for whatever reason, I would 100% recommend custom ROMing it. That's probably the best thing you can do in terms of longevity. I don't have to sit here and explain that. I would recommend going to like XDA developers, look up the Galaxy Note Edge. I think I just like had a lisp there. Look through all those ROMs to see which one you like. I would really recommend sticking with like an Android Oreo or Android Pie ROM. Those are probably the best ones. I wouldn't go like Android Marshmallow, Android Nougat. Those kind of are a little bit outdated. But in terms of that, you do have kind of a flexibility right there. And because this thing is Samsung, it does have TouchWiz and all that stuff, so I'll let you kind of play around, see which ROMs you like more. But this thing does, as far as I know, have custom ROM capability, so that is really, really cool. Now moving on to the processing speed, the performance, all that good stuff. So I'll tell you the specs. As always, those are probably the most boring part, but I'll tell you my real world use right after. So this thing had the Qualcomm Snapdragon 805 chipset, a quad-core CPU, and Adreno 420 GPU, as well as 3 gigs of RAM, and a lot of these specs really do stem from the Galaxy Note 4. So in terms of that, you could probably consider this, like I said before, a Note 4 with more features. The performance on this, I will tell you, in 2019 standards is pretty average, but I will say because this thing is a 2014 phone, it came out 5 years ago, I'm not going to compare it to like a Galaxy S10 or anything. I'm just going to kind of say how I feel about it considering the age and the price point. And what I'll definitely tell you is like, I don't think it's that slow. It could definitely be faster 100%, but for the average use that I would be using this for, I don't think it's like completely unusable. As you can see, I'm running through apps, I'm opening things, I'm scrolling through Chrome, whatever the case is. I think you'll be able to handle everything you're going to do with it at a very base minimum level pretty fine. I don't see anything. I mean, I wouldn't expect you to, have the craziest usage if you're planning on getting this phone or if you have this phone currently. And I think a lot of you guys are just watching this to kind of get a glimpse of the past, really. But in terms of that, I mean, I think it's going to be okay. The 3 gigs of RAM are okay on it as well. See, if you stick with the Android Marshmallow, I feel like with 3 gigs, you can probably do more with it than if you took it to an Android Pie ROM, because you have to remember back in 2014, 2015, even like 2016, a lot of the phones that were being released didn't have like 8 or 12 gigs of RAM. They had like 3 or 4, maybe 5 if they're lucky. So that specific software in those specific apps at the time were only suited for phones with around these type of specs. Now, the apps have since been updated in the App Store, so that is one thing you might have to keep in mind. But in terms of the performance, in terms of like app opening and all that, it's not bad, but it's also not good. It's in that middle ground where I would say, like, I don't want to offend anybody by saying this is a bad performer, but it really isn't even a bad performer, factoring in the age and all that. Now, in terms of gaming, this is where things get kind of tricky. In terms of casual gaming, this thing does run games perfectly fine. Pew Pew, Temple Run, whatever you're going to do with it. Those specific casual games do run fine, so yeah, I wouldn't really worry about that too much. The one thing that is kind of tricky to think about is the higher intensive gaming, such as Real Racing 3, whatever. That's really the only game I know. If you guys have any more recommendations for intensive games, let me know in the comment section below. But in terms of intensive gaming, you can definitely see that there are skipped frames. It's pretty noticeable. Is it horrible? I mean, could I finish a game? Yeah, maybe, but it's just kind of in that iffy spot. I feel like back in 2014, there could have been possibly better gameplay from a different phone, which is surprising because when this thing was released, it wasn't necessarily the cheapest phone out. So that is kind of interesting. I'm not too sure what was going on there. So in terms of the overall performance, I'll tell you, it's not horrible. Because of the age and price point, I will say it's I'll give it a light 6. Maybe like a light 6, probably like a 5.5. But again, I don't think a lot of you guys would care about the performance too much if you're getting it now. So that kind of covers up that. Let's go ahead and talk about the camera quality. So this thing did have a 16 megapixel sensor. You were able to have optical image stabilization on it, which is awesome. I don't know why I said that so weird. You were able to shoot 4K videos on it as well. And I'll definitely tell you, around 2014, even from like 2011, dude, Samsung has really been killing it in the camera market game. In this specific case, I really do like the camera. Again, I don't think it's the best thing ever. Even in 2014, I think it was definitely one of the top ones, but maybe the iPhone 6 at the time had a better camera, I don't know. And megapixels don't mean everything, don't forget, but I do think at a certain point, this camera quality is actually pretty decent even in 2019. There were some complaints about some specific, I don't know if it was Galaxy Note 4 or Galaxy Note Edge, but they share pretty much the same specs overall. The camera lens on the phone would actually like deteriorate over time. It just wouldn't look good. So that is one thing to consider to kind of clean it out. And if you still have one, clean out the lens. If you're planning on getting one, make sure you check out the camera lens quality, make sure everything is good with it. And also one thing I really do like about Samsung cameras are more so the camera apps, and you can definitely tell that there's so many features within it. Samsung just loads a bunch of bloat in their software, but they also put a bunch of kind of useful features in their camera app, and I'm glad they stick with them in there instead of like putting them in the settings app like Apple does. So super glad that they did that. The front is 3.7 megapixel camera. Surprisingly, you can shoot 1440p videos on it. I probably would not recommend using it because just like the Galaxy Note Edge that I had, the front camera, there would always be so much like lint and stuff getting behind the camera thing, so it would be really weird. But in terms of the camera, I'll give it a thumbs up. You know, the front camera kind of makes me a little bit iffy, but it is what it is, and that's pretty much how I would rate those things. Now moving on to the battery life. So this is a thing where, you know, because this is a 5-year-old phone, the battery has deteriorated over time. And I say this in every video, but it's not just a Samsung thing. It's not like, oh, pick out Samsung because their batteries deteriorate. It's every single phone. It's every single thing with the battery. Over time, the battery does degrade and it gets smaller and smaller technically over time. Not like in size, but like in milliamp hours. And the Galaxy Note Edge had a 3000 milliamp hour battery. And honestly, if it was that full 3000, it's not bad at all. But the thing with Samsung is that at this time, they were still offering removable batteries and removable storage, all that stuff. So all you have to do is if the battery life is bad, just pop out the phone battery and just put in another one you can order on Amazon. And if you want a bigger battery size, all you have to do is pop this one out, order one on Amazon, whether it's like 4 or 5000 milliamp hours, maybe even more, pop that one in, and then you're set. So you don't have to like stick with the stock battery that's within inside of it. You you can go and order a bigger one on Amazon. That is so sick. So in terms of that, I mean, if it was just stock, if it was just at 3000 milliamp hours, definitely that's degraded over time. But because this thing has a removable battery, this gets a thumbs up for me, man, no doubt. So that pretty much covers up everything I wanted to talk about. Some key important things I want to round up though. The front is a home button obviously, but it also has a fingerprint sensor within it, which is awesome. I heard a lot of things that it's not that good or whatever, and I would kind of agree with that, but this was in 2014 and fingerprint sensors, even though they weren't brand new, I guess they were still in their infancy a little bit. They had a lot of work to do, so this thing does have that. Another thing, because this thing is a little old, there is quite a bit of screen burn-in depending on which unit you get and depending on how badly the person used it before you used it and how badly they burnt the screen in. So in terms of this, mine, it wasn't horrible, but you can definitely see some screen burn in here and there. So just kind of be careful in terms of that. Also, the S Pen is such an amazing feature, and I just think it's overlooked a lot of the time, especially me. I overlook it a lot, but don't let it be like a miscellaneous feature. I think it's a really cool, necessary tool that if utilized correctly can really impact your workflow. And I'd really recommend you to even just look at tutorials on S Pens, and seeing what the capabilities are for those things. So to kind of wrap this whole entire thing up, man, is the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge worth it in 2019? What I will tell you is it can be worth it, if you're in a pinch, if you need a phone temporarily. I don't think it's a horrible phone. I think it does have a little bit of life left in it, especially if you custom ROM it. I think you'll be unlocking a whole new life into it if you throw out like an Android Oreo or Android Pie custom ROM on it. So in that sense, yeah, I think it's cool. And if you're using it now, I mean, definitely keep it. But there are way better phones out there for maybe $100 more than this thing. Like I say in every video, the Google Pixel 2s, even the original Google Pixel, even the Google Pixel XL, that thing is less than $200 on Amazon, and I would rather have that thing over this thing, and that thing is still getting support. And on top of that, there's a huge development community behind that too, and also a better camera, I think a better screen as well, so that's kind of an important thing to know right there. I just think the impact that the Galaxy Note Edge had is so much bigger than just this one specific phone. You can look at pretty much any other Samsung phone and be like, oh, that was good at the time, like the Galaxy S5, the Galaxy S3, these different phones, nothing really carried over too much. But with the Galaxy Note Edge, that one specific edge panel that they put on it has carried over to so many different Samsung phones, and they took a chance here and they really paid off in the long run with their design and everything. So whether it's worth it or not, I think this phone is amazing. I think it had a huge impact on the phone market today. And I love Samsung for taking this chance and for taking more chances, man. And I'm glad they're still sticking to their base core and they're trying new things, man. So we can't blame them too much, but that is pretty much it. If you have any questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. I'll leave a link to Google Pixel XL in the description, as well as a Galaxy Note Edge if I find one. Get those things through there. It'll mean so much. It also helps out the channel at the same time, so we can do more videos like this, more comparisons and more giveaways and all that stuff. So hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video as well, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.